Welcome back this week to another episode of Inverting Expectations. A little bit of sun and sea up in Scotland. It was a stunning weekend. A few weekends ago we went up to the Scottish International Airshow up at Ayr, flew along the seafront for a few 100,000 people. Brilliant fun. So I'm going to have a little bit of a chat through the display sequence, a little bit of a commentary for you guys, just to give you a little bit more insight into what's actually going on from my perspective. So you can sort of see I've already done a bit of a Mulleroid, so my starting figure in a lot of displays this year have been that sort of Muller tower, the spiralling tower type thing. One of my earlier episodes actually talks through, I'm talking through that in flight, so do have a watch of that. Into things like torque rolls. Torque rolls again I've talked through before, so these like really dynamic, interesting looking manoeuvres, lots of fantastic smoke trails, just drawing some great shapes in the sky for people to watch. As I say, when you've got tens, even hundreds of thousands of people watching, you've got to really think about putting on a show and putting on an interesting performance for people to watch. So things like opposition snap rolls, which I use for some of my turnaround manoeuvres. So with like aileron rolls followed by opposite direction snap rolls, just makes for a really interesting looking turnaround. It's just keeping lots of stuff going. Negative manoeuvres I don't do an awful lot of. This is one of the exceptions, the outside sort of shoulder snap thing. It's a bit of a negative snap roll on a climbing line that's sort of exaggerated to make it look a little bit more tumble-esque and just draw a better smoke trail. Things like stall turns, or for you guys in the States, hammerheads, are really good sort of easy, simple, clean turnaround manoeuvres that everyone likes to watch. I mean, everyone loves seeing an aeroplane going straight up, stopping and coming straight back down, because it's not what you normally see. It's like all this aerobatic displaying stuff. People want to see what they don't normally see aeroplanes do. They want to see stuff that's in their face, that's interesting and just spectacular. Doesn't have to be technical. I mean, my scrappy barrel roll here, not particularly elegant, that one I must admit, but very clean, very pure type aerobatics. People just love watching that sort of elegance, the swooping and looping and all this kind of stuff. So the dynamic stuff's brilliant. It draws great shapes, makes great smoke trails, makes fantastic photos, and it's great fun to fly. So again, torque roll is one of my absolute favourites, as I've already said several times in the past. So straight up, straight back down in a sort of like rolling fashion. Who doesn't like seeing an aeroplane do something ridiculous like that? Tail size, the same thing, although I fly them less frequently at display purely because there's a little bit of unpredictability about how far backwards you go sometimes. If you get it really well, nail it really well, you can go backwards quite a long way. But yeah, things like avalanches, so more sort of dynamic snap rolling manoeuvres. Drawing a loop with a flick roll at the top draws a great kind of corkscrewy sort of looking smoke trail. Again, makes for some fantastic photos. When I'm sort of turning things around or just moving around and repositioning in the display area, things like hesitation rolls on climbing lines, descending lines, just make the lines look more interesting. I try and keep something going on, the aeroplane moving all the time, either pulling, pushing or rolling all the time during my displays, which is something you may or may not notice about my style of flying. It's all about just keeping stuff going on. And when you get down to sort of the low level element, which I tend to tag on sort of the end of my display, it tends to be the lower level stuff that doesn't need so much of the high energy. I do things like hesitation rolling passes, so starting at low levels at like 200 feet or something, and then throughout the rolling segment I'll be gaining height. If anything, I certainly won't be losing height. Just a little bit of tip for any of you wanting to get into low level flying: never ever roll on a descending line. Always make sure you've got a little bit of a climb going on. It just gives you a little bit of extra margin if anything should go wrong. And most of all, enjoy it. You're throwing this thing around, having fun, and you get to see awesome things like your shadow running along the beach beside you. It's just, it's just the best feeling in the world. Chasing your own shadow along the sand is just awesome and joyful. I think people can see the joy in your flying, and something I like to convey. So hopefully you guys have enjoyed watching that a little bit and listening to me talk about it. Keep tuning in for more insights and more bits and pieces. See you next week.